Halloween
Forever.
Got an email the other day, weird one, out of nowhere. It was an offer to invest in restoring some ancient Egyptian architecture. Like they wanted me to get involved on the ground level. Yeah, don't worry. I didn't reply. Kind of sounded like a pyramid scheme. Welcome, boys and girls, to another... Wait, this isn't a showdown. This is a punishment minisode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
Yeah, the whole getting in on the ground floor thing, I gave it away. You might have sniffed it out before then, though.
I mean, totally, especially given the subject matter.
Yeah. Obviously. I mean, guys, if you're new to the podcast, if you're trying to guess, if it's important to you to guess the punchline, I use that phrase very loosely, or just perhaps the answer to the riddle or joke at the top of the show, just figure out what the top of the show is, guys. If you didn't catch up on that yet, you may be stupid. All right, guys, we are, speaking of stupid, we got a flick here for you this week. Stupid in a fun way, but we got a dumb fucking movie here for you to talk about, which is our punishment episode for the lovely month of September. Guys, you might be asking yourself, what the fuck is a punishment episode? And to that, I say, where you been, asshole? We've been doing this for years and years. But if you're new to the show, if you're just scooting on over here because you went on a phone and went in your podcatcher app and said, I want to listen to something spooky, and you typed in Halloween, and that's how you ended up with us. Here's how this motherfucking podcast works. Every Monday, we put out some sticky sweet content on the internet in the form of a podcast episode. First Monday of every month is what's called a showdown episode. That's where we have a big old spinny wheel of topics. We spin it. We pick some movies associated with that. Me, Steve, and then collectively our Patreon subscribers over on patreon.com/Halloween's Forever. We each pick a movie. We talk about them. Ultimately, a vote happens. Sometimes that vote has to go over to the internet. And ultimately, somebody takes home that son of a bitchin' championship strap for the month. Whoever takes home that son of a bitchin' championship belt gets a couple things. One, they get to just wander around town, just throwing fucking European uppercuts, just cutting promos at the mall, going into Giant Eagle. You get immediate discount on chip chopped ham. This has not been okayed by corporate at Giant Eagle. However, if you do request a pound of Isley's chip chopped ham, they do not give you some sort of discount. I do encourage you to make a scene. It's worked for me so far. But to the victor go the spoils. In addition to all those things, you also get to pick a punishment film for the next episode for you to, punish the not winning contestants, participants, and obviously, make them sorry that they were ever born and punish them for their insolence. So this particular month, the month of September, our Patreon subscribers actually won. They took it down. They beat Steve and I, beat us our own game, hoisted on our own petard. That's a Bugs Bunny joke.
Yes.
We lost, and the person whose pick ended up winning for the showdown episode was one of our lovely Patreon friends, one of our patrons, Ron, and he picked the punishment episode. So he's responsible for us talking about Bubba Ho-Tep from 2002 here today. Steve, what the hell was last week's what was the showdown topic? I already forgot. What was it again?
It was occult horror, Brian.
Occult horror. That's right. And of course, Ron's pick that ended up getting picked from all the Patreon picks was House of the Devil, and he did take it on down. It's a quality film. Anyway, if you like the show, if you figure out that, hey, this is worth your time to listen to, do us a favor. Go over on the Patreon and think about subscribing over there. And maybe if you say, I ain't ready for that guy, slow down. I don't kiss on the first date. I'll say, you know what? You slow down. You go on over our social medias. Search at Halloween is Forever or at Hallow Forever on X, and you can follow us over there. And you can see when we're voting on new shit, or perhaps we got a new episode release, or maybe you just want to see some spooky ooky shit on the internet. Steve, if they do go as far as to wanting to support us on the Patreon, why don't you tell the boys and ghouls what they get over there?
So if they want to start out slow and they just want to go to second base kind of early, we do have like an introductory tier. It's free. You get a little taste of stuff. You get like reviews and recos, and maybe you get some votes in there. Get a couple 2-3 things just to check out the lay of the land.
You just want a little nipple tweak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, just a little tweak.
See what's up.
Nothing under the belt.
Yeah.
But you can kind of get a taste of flavor of things to come.
The flavor of what's under our belts.
Yeah. But if you want to go all the way, if you want to just hit a home run and knock it out of the park right away, you pledge that $5. You get everything. You get the reviews and recos. You get the extra votes. You get the possibility to bring home that son-bitchin' championship belt and then make us watch whatever dog shit movie you have in your holster that you want us to see. And on top of all that, you get a monthly exclusive poddo called Youth Group is Forever, where we watch some of the most dog shit Christian horror films that ever have been conceived.
Yep. And honestly, I do want to reiterate that when you subscribe to Patreon at that $5 level, it does not guarantee you intercourse with either of us, or certainly not both of us simultaneously. However, it does give you that podcast, which may save you from hell. Or it might even, no one knows how it works. You might stack up some brownie points with God or Jesus or whoever it is that you believe in, so you can go out and do some more extra crimes. You know what I mean? So you can go out and do a little fucking and sucking and whatever the hell you want to do, right? Because he doesn't like that stuff. If there's anything we've learned about this, God from Youth Group is Forever, he does not like fucking and sucking, which is a shame. It's a damn shame. He doesn't like you to think about it. Can't even look up porn. Don't jerk off. Don't do any of that stuff. Do not disgrace your family. Do not disgrace your mother's cooking. Right. And there is a hell, and you are going. Those are the things that we've primarily learned through our 3 or 4 months we've been doing this podcast so far. The Youth Group is Forever. What
you can do though is you can FaceTime Snoop Dogg, and you can shoot Jesus in the head twice as long as you feel bad about it.
You can double tap. You can double tap Jesus. Yep.
Yeah. You can do both of those things. We learned that. It's okay. It's okay to talk to Snoop Dogg and hang out with Snoop Dogg. And it's okay to shoot Jesus twice in the head.
And he killed a guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He killed a guy.
He killed a guy in real life.
But he released a gospel album, so everything is copacetic now.
Yeah, that's how it works. So if you're asking yourself, what the fuck are these two dildos talking about? You got to go over and check it out and get our exclusive podcast over on the Patreon. Youth Group is Forever. All right. All the pitches and all that bullshit up out the way, guys. We got some business we got to take over this son of a bitch a month. First of all, we got to draw some topics from the faithful old spinny ass, old motherfucking ass, big ass, old spinny ass wheel, guys, because that is going to be for our October showdown. Or did we decide we're going to? Oh, it's October coming up, Steve. We're going to do something special. Yeah,
it's October special time. So actually, things are different. So what we're going to do?
Things are different. Yeah.
I was talking to the boys last night because we tried to record a podcast and then Mother Nature said no. So
we had a mishap.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to go. We're about 10 minutes before recording time. And we had some friends in the Discord, and I'm putting my kids to bed, getting ready to sign on. And all of a sudden, Kate texts me. The power flickered a couple times, and then Kate texts me saying, "I don't think we have any internet." And I went and did the whole router situation. Nope, didn't have no dang internet all night long. So that really fucked us out of recording last night. But sounds like you guys were talking, fantasy football and whatever else in the Discord for a while.
Yeah, we were just having a little chat, talking about music, talking about fantasy football, but we also talked about October plans. And so I think because what we did last year was we spun a spinny ass wheel and we just took what the wheel gave us because we put a bunch of movies that occurred during Halloween.
Right.
Yeah. So what I think we're going to do this week, rather than have a vote as usual, I think maybe we put it out to the Instagram audience and maybe on the Twitters and on the threads and just ask everybody, what's your favorite movie that occurs at Halloween? And then we take their suggestions just in case there's ones we've missed, because we already have a big fuck list that's like 70 titles long.
Yes.
But there's ones out there that aren't as obvious because they don't necessarily have like Halloween in the title or something like that.
Right. They're not necessarily a Halloween puppy, aka Halloween Puppy Adventure, aka Magic Puppy.
Right. They're not necessarily that.
Right.
So, well, for 1 week, we'll open it up, let everybody put in their suggestions, and we'll cross-reference it against the list we already have and all that. Then next week, we'll do the big spinning wheel draw and see what movies we come up with.
I like this plan. All right. So gives you another reason to go over and follow us over on Instagram or on a Twitter or on a Threads. And you know what? If you have a suggestion you want to throw us away and you go, I ain't got one of them social medias, boys. I'm old fashioned like that. Or maybe I'm just not into racism or whatever the hell. That's pretty much what Twitter is now. I think it's just cryptocurrency and racism. If you're not into that sort of stuff and you just gave up on all that stuff, God bless you. God's not real. Go ahead and send us a note on Gmail. You probably got one of them Gmail accounts. Maybe you got a Yahoo. Maybe you got a Hotmail. I'm not trying to discriminate. Send it to our Gmail. It's HalloweenIsForeverPod@gmail.com if you want to send us one of them old-fashioned motherfucking emails, guys. All right. So we'll do that next week. That's exciting. October, big month for the podcast, guys. All right. Well, with that being said, let's jump into some fucking beers and then talk about a movie. Steve, I'm already almost through my second beer here, which is the first same beer as the first one. I'll just get mine out of the way because it's a beer I drink on the podcast all the time. You can probably guess from the glass. It's some bitchin' Pilsner Urquell.
Yeah,
I got a six pack of Pilsner Urquell. I'm up in the old Crypt Urquell. And I'm getting ready to get down with some Bruce Campbell. I've been drinking a lot of Oktoberfests, right? Because it's that time of year. For the last 3 weeks, I've been sucking down some Oktoberfests. Never get sick of them, but boy howdy, I was in a beer distributor, just chatting it up with somebody over there. Saw some Pilsner Urquell. Said, guys, it's been maybe a week since I had one, so I grabbed a couple of 6-packs. It's just it don't get any better. I'm sorry. This is my beer. So it's boring, and I've literally drank on the podcast 100 times and plan to 100 more times. So kiss my butt and suck my dick. That's what I'm doing. I'm drinking this beer.
Real country music attitude. Like this. That's like old outlaw country.
Yeah, well, since I got this Fu Manchu, I'm going straight Johnny Paycheck these days. Yeah. That's where I'm at in my life.
The David Allan Coe of Pilsner Urquell. Kiss my butt and suck my dick. I'm going to drink some Pilsner Urquell.
Yeah. It's got hit written all over it.
Yeah. So
what are you drinking on, Steve?
So I had a beer last night thinking we were going to have an episode. And I thought you might have been a little bit proud of me because I was drinking seasonal, not trash, and I had a Hacker Shore Oktoberfest.
Oh, that's a good one, and that is a good one. Hacker Shore, honestly, probably one of my top 3 or 4 import Oktoberfest. Yeah. They always do a nice one.
Yeah, so that was nice, but I drank it last night, and so we can't talk about it. Too bad. So sad. Blame the weather. But
so now you're drinking trash.
No, I'm not drinking trash yet. But boy,
you were like, I had my Oktoberfest last night, but you weren't here, so here I am drinking fucking peanut popcorn oatmeal fucking cotton candy sour.
I was so close to, because you would be so pissed off watching me pick beers in a mix and match.
I wouldn't be able to do it. I would just start. I would just draw my pants, take a shit in the aisle, and walk out.
Because I picked up a Hacker Shore, I picked up an Allagash Haunted House, and then I picked up some just straight bullshit that will show up in later episodes that I'm not telling you about. That you're gonna get mad about.
Can't wait.
But this week's is the Hofbrauhaus, the Freising one,
Oh yeah.
And I got their Dunkel.
Yeah, the other Hofbräu, not the Munich Hofbräu.
Right.
Their Dunkel is fucking great. I used to work with a wholesaler down in Maryland. Backup Beverage. Shout out to the Backup Beverage boys. There's no way they listen to the podcast. Actually, one of the sales guys used to listen to the podcast. Maybe he still does. Hey, if you're out there, grab me some fucking Hofbräu Dunkel. They sold that beer. Okay. And so every time I went to their warehouse, I call them up and be like, my dude, why don't you hook me up with a case of that Dunkel or a case of that Helles? Or what is the other thing they have? Oh, they have a Dortmunder too. That's fucking good. Love their stuff. The problem is a lot of times when you see it on the shelf, it ain't fresh. But this time of year, that's the time you can gonna find it fresh.
Yeah, I figured this one is fresh. I don't know that they put anything on the bottle that lets me know. That's the problem.
It's like classic import thing where they've just put like a really cryptic code, or they put, basically a year out on some bullshit. But Dunkel, if that's kept cold, boy, that beer will hold up like crazy.
I mean, the production code is 24080. So whatever that is whatever that is. Maybe it was produced in August of the 24th of this year. I don't know.
That seems optimistic,
but it's still good. So it's still just it's a nice, super clean, dark lager, and that's what I love. Like it's not as roasty as like a Schwarzbier or anything like that, nor should it be. But it's it's enjoyable. Yeah,
a little Munich-ier, a little breadier, a little rounder. Love a Dunkel, and that one in particular is tasty. Okie dokie. You know what? Before we go into this movie here, because not that I don't enjoy this movie. Spoiler alert: Bubba Ho-Tep. I've been. This movie's been on my radar, and actually, I watched it early after its release, like when it was first available on DVD.
Same.
And I'll explain the story why that's the case. And I do like this movie, but there's not a lot of story. You know what I mean? It's part of the reason I like it.
Yeah.
It's like a setup, and then some things happen. And this is completely unrelated, but I really wanted to get your thoughts on it because I've been interested in people's reaction to this. The new Lee Wynell Wolfman trailer hit, the teaser hit, and even I think before the teaser hit, there was a lot of buzz because at some, I don't know if it was Comic-Con.
I think it was Halloween Horror Nights.
It was Halloween Horror Nights. You're right. Yeah. It was Halloween Horror Nights. They had some sort of, I don't know if it was a media day. I don't know what the fuck it was, but they had this this little kind of photo op-y type of booth display set up, and apparently they had a guy dressed up in a unique costume, prosthetics and makeup and the whole thing.
Unique and people is just a real generous way to describe that.
People have been shitting on it hard. I just was curious of your thoughts and if you saw the teaser yet, because we're both big fans of the OG Universal monsters, and we've talked about many of those movies, and I am always interested to see the new takes on these and the whole dark universe thing that was supposed to happen, and then the Mummy killed it, and then so now this is a Blumhouse thing. This doesn't have anything to do with Universal, but people are taking their stabs at it, and I'm this is the same guy who did or at least same guy who did the Invisible Man, right?
Yeah. The new take on the Invisible Man. Yeah. I saw it, and like, as if that was just like a thing that's roaming around a park, that's fine. Like, that's obviously not the movie makeup.
Of course not.
But it still also sparked a moment of like, what is this? Well, what are you putting out here?
Yeah. So people hated it. And I'm going to try to describe it. You're better off just Googling it, going on the Instagram or whatever. But
just go on like our Facebook, because I put a post up about it, and like there was an SNL sketch called "What Is This?" And so I just took the screen from that and put it next to the picture of that, monster. I was like, what is this? What are we supposed to garner from this? And then when you see the teaser trailer, you don't actually see the monster at any point in the teaser trailer.
No, you do not at all. So that I was going to bring that, like the teaser trailer is a real, and I'm okay with it because there's nothing I hate more than a trailer that gives up too much.
Right.
And this isn't even a full length trailer. This is a really short, minute long, something like that. Really quick little teaser trailer. So I'm fine that they didn't do too much, but it didn't exactly get me all boned up because it showed you nothing. It just had like a kid going like, "Daddy, are you a werewolf?" or whatever, and then that was it.
Daddy, you scaring me.
Yeah,
Wolfman,
that was pretty much
coming soon.
Yeah. Now if you've put Dracula in the background, I'm like, hell yeah.
Right.
So here's what I thought of the whole thing. Like I said, take a look at the picture. People hate when werewolf designs are polarizing, right? Because there's always the question of what's the mix? Is it 80% wolf, 20% man? I find that is the ideal ratio. The recipe for a crowd-pleasing wolfman or werewolf is 80% wolf, 20% man. It's got to be bipedal. It's got to be standing up on two legs, but it's got to have a full-ass wolf head, but with a slightly more man body. Like basically the jokey, like sexy anime wolves, like that people put memes around on the internet. That's actually the mix people want.
Right.
And if it goes down on all fours, or if its legs are too wolf-like, people go, too wolfy, not manny enough. This one goes the opposite and really goes 80% man, 20% wolf.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of fun. I thought it was kind of interesting because it's not human. It's humanoid, and it mostly looks like a human, but with big ass, weird, misshapen claw hands, kind of a weird, misshapen mouth with teeth, kind of fucked up, wolfy looking eyes, but otherwise looks like a dude. And I was like, that looks cool. But boy, howdy, did everyone fucking hate it. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, I'm glad. I mean, how many fucking werewolves can we see? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get like that. I'm still willing to kind of give it a chance. I think the big problem for a lot of people, including myself, is that there's no demarcation of wolf. It looks like a tall goblin or a tall leprechaun is what it looks like.
It's got, I will not sit here and try to argue with you. It's got some goblin vibes. Yeah, it definitely does. But I think there are some wolf-like features to it. Also, I think a lot of the I hope they go into this because the whole, modern impression of, the Wolfman lore and everything it's always all about alcoholism, drug abuse, that sort of stuff, and the whole transformation and all that, which is fine. Like, I'm sure there's no denying that some of that was baked into the original story, but I'm hoping they go like the whole, like, what was the guy's name? Like the was he like the Wolfman of Dusseldorf or something?
Oh, the serial killer type.
The serial killer who just went wild and mauled people. Like, I'm hoping they go like a slightly supernatural version of that. You know what I mean? I think that would be pretty cool.
I doubt that, being that the trailer is all around, "Daddy, you're scaring me." So it sounds.
I know.
It sounds like it's right back down the middle of like a abusive parent type, alcoholism shit.
Yeah.
I'm also willing to entertain the idea that what they were showing off is like, it is the monster we will see through the majority of the film, but it's also an incomplete transformation.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up as well. I think it might be like, partially, partially transformed. It
right.
Might be he might even be mid transformation.
Yeah, like probably, I'm guessing at the end, you get a more complete, werewolf, the classic werewolf that you would recognize as the father, like completely gives up his humanity or something. Or maybe you don't, and maybe he just gets killed before he can make that full transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it interesting that people, like, not individuals, but the group think that comes along with the modern takes on like classic monsters, even if it's not the classic universal monsters, is such a hyper specific balancing act niche thing that people want. Otherwise they're going to complain about it. And it's like people shit all over, studio movies for being, hey guys, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. You know what I mean? You're trying to please everyone. But then when somebody takes a big swing, everyone's like, fuck you. That's not a Wolfman. Yeah.
I mean, it was a bad marketing decision to make the very first thing anybody sees about this movie a shitty, like, theme park makeup thing. Like, they shouldn't have revealed anything in reality. They should have just let the movie play out and then let people accept and, like, make their decisions on what they've seen from the movie. Instead, they debut this awful makeup with, he's wearing Hulk hands and a leprechaun head, and it's bad. It looks bad, but
yeah, it's a guy in a costume, and not even like you said, it's not even a movie quality costume. Right. So yeah, it's a little rough. And it's a little rough. In the right lighting, it might have been cooler, but
yeah, that's the other thing. Everything everybody saw was like in the middle of the day, so like it's the most seams, it's the most failures of you see everything. And it's presented without context at all. The only context you had was there's a banner behind him that says Wolfman, and you go, that ain't the Wolfman. I know what the Wolfman looks like. That ain't the Wolfman.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. It was a series of tough marketing decisions that resulted in someone getting that picture and thrown all over the internet.
Well, it was more than a picture. There was a video that went along with it.
Was there? And I didn't see the video. I just saw static images.
Yeah, and it's just like it further reinforced the fact that like the mask he's wearing didn't move or anything, and it's just this guy like swinging his arms, going, and it's like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Oh, don't do that, guys. Don't do that. All right. All I'm saying is, guys, don't dunk on the Wolfman. It's gonna be cool. Don't worry.
Don't dunk on
the Invisible Man was great. That was great. Invisible Man, the remake. I thought it was tremendous. Yeah, that's a T-shirt, by the way. Don't dunk on the Wolfman. It's just the Wolfman with his knuckles dragging on the ground, like sad face, getting just teabagged. All right, guys, let's get into the movie. Like I said, our Patreon friend Ron, who ended up getting, his pick ended up being the one that represented the collective Patreon subscribers, and they did dethrone us in the occult horror battle for September. So Ron picked Bubba Ho-Tep, which due to circumstances that suck, and I didn't have internet because of bad storms in the area last night, Ron was going to be, was in the Discord last night. We were going to record. Unfortunately not able to hear tonight, but I'm interested to hear his, history with this movie. Hope we can get a little bit of context next time we record and see if we can get Ron in the Discord once again. I can tell you, Steve, it sounds like we both saw this movie pretty early on. It was released in 2002. I want to say it was out on DVD by 2003. Mm-hmm. The reason I saw this so early was my friend Ryan is the like preeminent Bruce Campbell super fan. Mm-hmm. Like he knows every single thing the guy does. He's just like, he is I don't know if as much now. He's obviously, in his 40s with children now. But like when we were teenagers, he was like a Bruce Campbell super fan. So he heard about this movie coming down the pike for a long time, like hunted it out and like forced us to watch it. And I remember at 17 years old or whatever, when I watched this for the first time, going like, oh, wow, they make movies like this still. Because, I had seen some wacky movies, from back in the day, but like some of the newer, wackier movies like this weren't on my radar as a 17-year-old. This was when I was, obsessed with Stanley Kubrick, and that was kind of where I was at as a movie patron at the time.
Sure. Yeah, I think I had seen this originally. It either came from one or two places. I either saw it on OG physical Netflix and just saw like, hey, a Bruce Campbell film just came out, and it's like, oh yeah, I like Bruce Campbell. I like Evil Dead, so I'm gonna watch it. Or
yeah,
because I was also like, before Evil Dead, I was a huge Briscoe County Jr. fan. So like that was my shit.
Yeah, we watched that a lot growing up. My in-laws were hugely into that show.
Yeah. But it either came from there, or I had a friend who literally went to Best Buy every Tuesday and bought like all the new releases. He just had like money burning a hole in his pocket, so he just bought every fucking DVD that came out, and then I either watched it with him or borrowed it from him, one of those two. But yeah, so I definitely saw this in it really early in its like release, and I haven't watched it since. So it's probably been about 20 years since I've seen this film.
I've watched it a couple other times since. Like I probably watched it, I don't know, maybe it was six or 7 years ago. And then I want to say they did it on Joe Bob in the last couple seasons too, because I've watched it more recently than that as well. So I want to say this is probably like my at least my fourth time watching it. I've seen it quite a few times, but
sure.
So this is one of those movies you're just so happy that it got made, First of all, I remember when I first heard about this, I did not necessarily know who Don Coscarelli was, but I knew Phantasm.
Sure.
So when I learned that this was the guy who did Phantasm, I was like, what this just sounds like one of those pipe dream projects that in the relatively early days of home internet, you kind of knew, you caught wind of it in some capacity or in like a magazine or some website somewhere, but then you never heard anything ever about it ever again. But you were like, oh, it's the guy from Evil Dead, directed by the guy who made Phantasm, and he plays Elvis fighting a mummy. Right. And you're like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. Like that's literally never going to happen. Yeah, that's never going to happen. And then when it did, like, I remember, him explaining this to me. I was like, wait, this is an actual movie. They've made it. Like, how didn't I hear about this? And he was like, I don't know. Nobody knows about it. And he already had the DVD. So we watched it. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is a fucking wild movie. But yeah, it's written and directed by the great Don Coscarelli. Not only writer director of what I gotta say, at least the first 3 or 4 Phantasm movies. Oh, and also Joe Lansdale co-wrote this as well, who him from
comic books.
Well, he wrote what's that?
Comic books. He's just kind of a prolific writer. He's written like a bunch of comic books, a bunch of novels on his own. And then he has a couple like screenplays as well. So yeah, he's just a prolific writer.
Yeah, and he wrote the original story that this is based on, the kind of bit of weird fiction that this story was based on. Anyway, in addition to the like I said, at least the first 3 or 4 Phantasm movies, the other things you probably know Don Coscarelli for was The Beastmaster. He wrote and directed, and John Dies at the End. A little bit more recently. I mean, that came out, I guess, when I was in college, so it's not that recent. That has to be at least, well, here it is, 2012. That's a ways back.
Yeah.
But those are kind of his big credits. But yeah, the cast in this, I mean, the big star, the big draw, obviously, one Mr. Bruce Campbell, which most of you would know from, of course, the Evil Dead franchise. He is, the embodiment of one of the greatest genre characters of all time. Ash, from Ash vs. the Evil Dead, obviously the Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2, Ash vs. the Evil Dead in recent years. But he's been in an absolute fucking million things, right?
Most of the Spider-Man films as a cameo. Yeah. Man with a Screaming Brain is just like a weird sci-fi channel film that was fun.
If there is a single person who's listening to this podcast that doesn't know who Bruce Campbell is, I'll eat my own dick. I don't think that's a reality.
I'll smell my butt.
I will. I'll smell my butt. Now you meant it. Yeah, I would say the other two people, it's just a small cast. Ozzie Davis is great in this. And Ozzie Davis plays, he plays John F. Kennedy. But I immediately recognize him from Grumpy Old Men.
Sure,
he was most recognizable for me because I watched that movie a million times when I was a kid. Also, he's in Do the Right Thing, The Client, over 100 acting credits. Passed away, almost 20 years ago now. And then Ella Joyce, really recognizable face for me as well, and I hadn't until this point looked up what else she is in that I know her from, but I absolutely remembered her. Boy, nothing's jumping out at me right off the bat. A lot of credits though.
I remember her from the TV series Rock that had Charles Dutton on it. It was
I didn't watch that.
It was very similar. It was like King of Queens before King of Queens. But it was just about Charles Dutton played kind of the dopey husband, the kind but dopey hearted husband, and Ella Joyce was his wife on that show. It was on Fox. I watched it a lot. I don't know why. I just did.
I am going to find what else I know her from because I'm looking through. I mean, she was in one episode of the Jamie Foxx show, one episode of Seinfeld. I don't remember from that. A lot of, little bit parts on 90s sitcoms. And then, she's still working today.
Was it the movie Set It Off with Queen Latifah?
It is not the movie Set It Off with Queen Latifah. I am not seeing anything here that's ringing a bell for me. She's got a lot of like I said, bit parts and things throughout the years. And nothing here is sinking in for me that what I know her from, but I absolutely recognize her. And I think a lot of folks will recognize her as, just like a character actor, a lot of bit parts on TV and movie and that sort of stuff. Anybody else you want to call out on the cast that's worth chatting about?
Yes, of course.
Oh, Reggie Bannister.
Yeah. Reggie Bannister, who obviously plays Reggie in all the Phantasm films. But yeah, he plays the kind of rest home administrator. He's in charge of it. But he shows up for a little cameo. Yeah, he's in a couple quick scenes.
Yeah. Obviously Don Coscarelli favorite. This guy is absolutely recognizable too, which is Daniel Roebuck, who played one of the hearse drivers. What do we know him from? I mean, he was in The Fugitive, Final Destination. Holy moly, he has 281 credits. Still working to this day.
You've seen him, but you may not just know him by name, but you've seen him.
He's been in so many things and a lot of big things too. Like it's not just like, kind of niche-y things like this. He has been in an absolute ton of things. Oh my gosh. He also, here's what I am most recently recognizing him from. He played, he was in Rob Zombie's The Munsters remake from a couple years ago.
He plays Grandpa.
Yeah, he plays Grandpa in The Munsters. Yeah, and then what else? He plays a lot. Oh my gosh, he's been in so many things. This is my favorite thing. He was in 3 from Hell. This is one of my favorite things to do is find a little known but extremely prolific like character, working actor who's recognizable. And you're just like, what do I know him from? And then go down and be like, oh my God, I know him from 700 things. He's also in a bunch of the Phantasm movies. Like, holy shit, dude. This guy does like 6 movies a year. I love it. He was in Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever.
Oh, okay.
Which was a TV movie from 2014.
Yeah.
Guys. I can't believe that's a real thing that exists, but that's a
very funny thing that exists.
Yeah. All right. So let's get a little bit into
I got one more
of this movie.
I got one more.
Oh yeah, go for it.
One more is Larry Pennell, who plays the role of Kemosabe, who basically is just another old man who thinks he's the Lone Ranger. He was on an episode of Diagnosis Murder. That's all.
There you go. Coming full circle, guys. We're big fans of Diagnosis Murder over here. We have, it's really only a matter of time before this podcast spins off into a Diagnosis Murder podcast. It is the most bonkers show maybe ever made.
Yes.
And if you're not watching Diagnosis Murders, please go do that. He's also in one episode of Quantum Leap, bringing it back to Scott Bakula from our episode where we talked about that weird black and white movie from a few, what was it called?
Divinity.
I was going to say Dynasty. It's
Divinity.
Dynasty. The Great White Hope. He was in too. Man, this guy's been in a shitload of stuff too.
Yeah.
Man, IMDb. Shout out. Quick shout out. Not a sponsor. IMDb. Just waste so much time just having a blast over on the IMDb. All right, let's get into the plot here. Really, like I said, there's a lot. It's kind of a wild setup here. So we get this little newsreel at the beginning where we learn that some real life ass mummies have gotten dug up, right?
Yeah.
And that's all we know.
And they're coming.
But they've been dug up.
They're coming to America. They're going on tour.
They're coming to a town near you, right? They're going on tour, which is a thing they used to do.
Yeah.
It's just ship mummies around the country. I mean, they still do to a certain extent at museums and stuff like that. But it used to have a little bit more of a carny vibe to it, I feel like.
Yeah, I think a lot of the carny stuff was fake, and they were just, lying to you because there was real museum tours of stuff. Like, I think it was the 70s, like King Tut did like a world tour, and everybody was like super crazy about that because there was nothing else going on in the 70s either. But
that's a good point. Yep.
Yeah. But I think like, the carny stuff were like, oh, here's Tutankhamun's finger. And then now here's a pig that we found with two heads. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That was that kind of carny shit. But yeah,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. They set it up in a believable way. Like, hey, here come the mummies for, America. And then like, this is what I kind of like about Don Coscarelli films is he might have been like the first vibes based director in that his films, they're like kind of loosely tethered together a lot.
Oh yeah. Tenuous, like at best in some instances. You're like, wait, how did that there's a couple examples that I'm going to talk about here where I'm like, wait, where did this mummy come from? Why does he have a cowboy hat? It's never really explained.
He does not take the time to explain anything, and he doesn't really want to think about it either. Like I think he even said that in an interview when he was talking about the original Phantasm of like, I was just trying to make a movie really quick. I wasn't thinking about it that hard. So, and you can tell, those movies are all over the place, but they're still fun.
Well, that's the thing is like, he doesn't let too much plot get in the way of a good story. You know?
Or too much story
just let her
get in the way of a story either.
Yeah. Just let her rip, baby.
Yeah.
That's Don Coscarelli style. Let her rip. Which I appreciate. This movie could have gotten bogged down really hard if they tried to explain all this nonsense, but they're just like, just come on along the ride with us.
His philosophy for this may have been like, I think this is kind of his strongest told story, except for maybe John dies at the end. They're both this and that one are pretty strong in not being too crazy and indecipherable, but like they're also both based off already written works. So he had a roadmap, whereas like Phantasm, he's just kind of fancy free going, whatever. And It's been a long time since I watched the Beastmaster movies, although I did love those growing up because they were on TNT all the time. And
well, didn't the Beastmaster, wasn't it loose? I mean, it was a sword and sorcery Conan-y type of thing, but did it have I guess I always assumed that it was based on a fantasy novel.
It may have been, but if it was, I never read it.
Yeah.
I just feel like it was one of those movies where everybody was making a lot of sword and sorcery with a big booby lady, type movies. And he just hit on one where he's like, yeah, my guy controls a hawk. Isn't that cool?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, Don, it fucking is.
Dude, it's
very cool.
Fuck yeah.
Everything about it's cool.
Yeah. And there's a guy who has a sick helmet and it has bat wings on it. Yeah, fucking awesome.
Yes, Don. It's just like that clip from It's Always Sunny that where he's like, Don, Dennis comes in, he's all pissed off. He's like, what the fuck's going on? He looks over and Frank's wearing a cheetah outfit. He's like, what is that? Man cheetah? He's like, yeah. You like it? Yes. He's like all flustered, but he's like, takes a moment to really yes. Cool. It's very cool. Anyway, yeah. So they start off. We're at a retirement home, an old people's home, kind of a rundown, kind of a shithole of a retirement home in Muddy Creek, Texas. So we're somewhere in the goddamn middle of nowhere, East Texas, I think is what they say. And we get this guy, and he looks like an old, fat elderly Elvis Presley, and he talks like Elvis. Of course, he's played by the great Bruce Campbell, and which, I mean, they really doll him up. This couldn't have been casted better.
Yeah, because
first of all, Bruce Campbell already looks a lot like Elvis. He looks like he just himself could be an Elvis impersonator.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would say he looks somewhere between Jay Leno and Elvis already.
Yeah.
He looks like a more handsome Jay Leno and perhaps a slightly more cartoonish looking Elvis. Yeah. But they have prosthetics on him and the hair and everything, and obviously they age him up. And he's talking about this growth on his dick, and basically he's pretty bummed, will suffice to say, about how his life has gone, or where he currently is and how he got there. And he's kind of a little bit self-pitying, a little bit self-loathing about allowing his life to get where he is. He's in this retirement home, which is a pretty shit place, to live. He kind of watches his roommate just die screaming, which is like a bit of a wake up call too for him. Just like a guy he barely, he was his roommate. He was, I think he kind of says we weren't necessarily friends, but we were roommates. So, I knew him pretty well. It's depressing, right? He's kind of sleeps all day, lays in bed. People come and go. Nurses come and go. Everyone's kind of just neglected. Their families don't come see them. There's people in iron lungs. It's a little cartoonish. Yeah, it's more than a little cartoonish. Yeah,
it's more than a little cartoonish. I think, Dawn definitely injected a lot of cartoonish elements. So this isn't just the absolute most depressing thing, but also you have to, considering your lead is Elvis Presley hiding out as his own impersonator, and his best friend is a Black Jack Kennedy. So you have to make the rest of the world feel a little more silly as well.
Yeah. Otherwise it should just seem really, really sad, So yeah, it's pretty cartoonish. You've got the sassy nurse that's, basically you're starting to get these hints of wait, is he Elvis? He's very much convinced he's Elvis. Everyone else is just okay, whatever you say, kind of thing. Ultimately, we'll talk about it, but it does get explained to us a lot more detail. But we start seeing this. Well, first we see this thieving ass old woman who just goes around and steals people's like treats and things that their families send them. She's just a trifling ass old woman. And a scarab, a full on, Mummy starring Brendan Fraser style scarab, but instead of like wonky ass CGI, it's just a damn rubber bug, with a little puppet. And it fucks up this old lady. And then you start to see this like dark, scary figure kind of showing up in silhouette. And Elvis is having some bad dreams about it. You start to get the idea that he's got some sort of connection to this mummy in some capacity, some psychic connection. He keeps seeing things like the lady crawling to the door. He's not sure what's a dream, what's reality.
Yeah, because he wakes up at night and he sees her just kind of like she's clung to the door as if she were on the Titanic falling down the other end. She's clung to the door.
She's like, help me. Yeah.
And then she gets sucked off into the abyss and she's gone. And he's just kind of like, well.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, did I see that? Did I dream that? He's not entirely sure. But we do this reoccurring gag of the bodies of the people, who are dying. Assumedly this happens all the time of natural causes at the old retirement community, but it's increasing in frequency here because, we got something going on. Something is adrift here in Muddy Creek. So we get this reoccurring bit of these two very cynical, I guess, mortuary assistants or undertakers or something like that. And they're loading up corpses, under a sheet into a hearse. And one of them is very like kind of reflective on life and is a little bit more thoughtful, but is still kind of jaded. And the other one's just like an asshole. Mm-hmm. But they're always doing slapsticky stuff and doing little gags and stuff like that. So it's, you kind of get early on the tone of the movie is silly.
Yeah.
Right. There's definitely some serious stuff. There's definitely some kind of, tugging at your heartstrings moments, but for the most part, it's pretty tongue in cheek.
Yeah. It's like when it wants to be reflective, it's a lot of Elvis being reflective on like, how could he have done his life better or differently? It's not like Ash vs. the Evil Dead when Ash is like reflective on his life and he just thinks about how he could have gotten more tail or how he could, like it's the opposite of that. Yeah. Ash is just like same cartoonish level, but he is just kind of like an old asshole in Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Whereas like Elvis in this is, like he's apologetic. He's remorseful of like what his life has become.
Yeah. Yep. And one thing that keeps reoccurring for him, and we meet and learn more about Jack, his buddy in the nursing home here pretty quickly, but they have a lot of regrets about how they treated their family, specifically their kids, or were or were not there for them at the right time, didn't spend enough time with them, didn't cultivate a relationship with them, and that's ultimately why they're alone, aside from each other in this place. In one instance, this is when it really kind of hits home for him, is he wakes up and there's a young woman going through his roommate's drawers who had just died, comes to find out it is his daughter, and he's never seen her before. He's heard a lot about her, but she never came to visit him. And she's just throwing away his shit and like putting her ass in his face as she's going through her stuff. And there's like this moment where he also is like the first time he's realizing that he has no like sex drive at all, but he also has no sexual confidence, nor does anybody see, he's Elvis. So he was like the biggest sex symbol in the world, what I mean? Biggest male sex symbol in the world for generations. And now all of a sudden, like, no, like he might as well be a chair, right? You know what I mean? So he's struggling with this. he ultimately lays this guilt trip on her for not coming to see her dad when he was still alive. Weirdly enough, we don't really see this woman again. And I always found it odd. You felt like she was going to be a bigger part of the story, and she just isn't.
Right.
We never see her again.
Yeah, this is that vibes filmmaking. And I think it was she's just kind of a device to serve as like the connection for Elvis, because later on he does talk about like his connection to like Priscilla and Lisa Marie, and how he doesn't see either of them anymore, and like nor would he, because of the way he set up his switcheroo.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't know that that's him there. But yeah, she just kind of sparks those memories in him, sparks the memories of like him not being a sex symbol anymore, and also when she's cleaning everything out, she like throws away her dad's Purple Heart. And even though Elvis didn't get a Purple Heart, he did serve in the military. So that's just like another thing that reminds him of, you know, back in the day, I was also this. I was everything. I was a war. You know, everybody knew me as like a American good old boy and a movie star and all this shit. And I'm none of that now.
Yeah, this is really what sends him spiraling towards looking at all this stuff. But so this is where he gets in. We get the whole backstory of his, you know, the turn his life made, and why people don't believe him that he's actually Elvis. So he explains that there was a Elvis impersonator that was so good that he, you know, had to go see him, and he hatched this plan out around him. His name was Sebastian Haff. There has to be some significance to that name. That is such a specific, unique name. There has to be a reason why Don Coscarelli, or most notably probably John, what is it, Langsdale, right? Whatever the
Joe Lansdale.
Original, Lansdale, Joe, not John, named him that. And I don't know if, because I've not read the short story this is based on, but I'm curious. I would be curious to learn why they call it, you know, why he was Sebastian Haff. But that was this Elvis impersonator. And he explains that he swapped places with Sebastian. We get this big scene of him and his boys going out, him kind of going in one-on-one to meet with Sebastian Haff, and then switches places with him, asks him on the spot, writes up paperwork, and they agree to voluntarily switch places. Of course, Sebastian Haff in the flashback is also played by Bruce Campbell, so they literally are the same person. But he switches places with him and basically says, "You get to go be Elvis. Like, you're gonna go get in the car with my buddies and go back to Vegas. Like, you're gonna be Elvis now. And here's all the information you need for that to be a reality, I guess," which is complicated. Obviously, it's a lot of disbelief to suspend there. But and then he says, in return, I am gonna go, you know, the real Elvis, I'm going to go out and take over your life as an Elvis impersonator, and, you know, live a more simple life. And, you know, I want to get a little bit out of the spotlight and go back to having fun and doing all the things I used to do, whatever. He also explains that there was one catch, which was that he made him sign into the contract that if he ever wanted to go back to his old life, Sebastian had to switch back. But we get this scene of his contract, more specifically his entire mobile home, going up exploding in a barbecue accident, and he lost his part of the contract. So he was kind of like, well, now I'm stuck in this life. But he was okay with it. They show him going to like shows and playing as, you know, an Elvis tribute and loving it and having fun and all this stuff. But then he eventually fell off the stage and broke his hip or something like that, and ended up in a coma. And you know, that's how he ended up where he is today. Yeah. So
that explosion scene is so funny in the sense of like, not just how it was presented, but also just the sense of filmmaking, because it's such a small part of the story that you don't necessarily need. And you could have filmed like literally anything else. It could have just been like a small kitchen fire or something. But the fact that they blow up so much explosive
It's such a dramatic, huge Desperado style explosion. Yeah.
It rolls so hard, and you would never see that almost ever. Like, especially because it's also a real explosion. So you would just like never see that today in like small indie film. I don't think it's so rare, and it's so funny to see it like this.
It's like, it's an enormous explosion. I feel like back in the, really up, there must have been a guy in Hollywood for like, 50, 60, 70 years who just loved to blow shit up. You know what I mean? And he was just like that crazy Muppet with the TNT plunger that just blows shit up. And that's all he cared about. And he just did it for free. And he was the guy who worked on every movie. And so it didn't add anything to the budget. He was like, yeah, man, I'll blow shit up for you. Whatever I got to do. And then he died in like 2010, 2005. And then we never saw anything like that again.
Yeah. It's the same way, like they never replaced the trailer voice guy. They never replaced, crazy Eddie, the explosion guy. They just a thing lost to Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some guy who was the Zambelli fireworks to film.
He was in it for the love of the game, the love of explosion. He was like he was Trash Can Man from The Stand. Yep. He just loved it so much. He loved nothing more than explosions. So we meet Jack, which is Elvis's buddy, and this is a funny bit. I remember in 2003 we thought this was hilarious. He is just another older gentleman at the retirement community who insists that he is John F. Kennedy, and that he was basically disappeared or whatever by the CIA. And, and they faked his death. But the joke, of course, is this is an African-American gentleman who couldn't look less like JFK. And probably, I don't even know that the ages would really match up. Maybe they did. I don't know. But he insists that he was dyed. They dyed him to be black. He doesn't sound at all like JFK at all.
He doesn't even have,
which is the funny part.
Yeah, he doesn't even have like a Boston accent. Just just gone.
But he has an explanation for why this is the case all the time. But they're buddies. They kind of rely on each other a little bit, and they are both the only people who believe themselves and also, I guess, believe each other. I mean, it's pretty clear that like Jack believes Elvis is Elvis, but it seems like Elvis probably doesn't believe that Jack is actually JFK. But he just kind of humors him because it's his buddy, In any case, eventually the scarab comes back around, comes after Elvis. He's rooting around these chocolates that he has. And then we get this like kind of heavy metal slapstick fight scene. That's just so much fun. Where he ultimately traps the scarab in like a bedpan. It's just a whole slapstick, funny Looney Tunes fucking bit, and then ultimately stabs it with like a serving fork, and then electrocutes it and him and the scarab simultaneously. And then he has a lot of great one-liners, of course, in the Elvis impersonation, which is "You never fuck with the king."
Yeah.
After he stabs and electrocutes the scarab.
How brilliant was it for them to give the scarab just a high-pitched scream that sounds like a cartoon, and like when it gets like thrown across the room, it's just like wee, like it screams wee as it's thrown away. So like it has it has all these cartoonish mannerisms. It's not scary in the least, but it's very funny. No. It's cartoonish.
The whole thing, this whole scene, the lighting, like all this stuff, it's shot like a graphic novel. It's very, very comic booky. And also Bruce Campbell, I mean, we all know one of the things he's most known for is his like physical acting. You know what I mean? Obviously Evil Dead, like fucking one of the greatest like physical performances, not just in the crazy facial expressions, but just his physicality and thrown around, and obviously his hand rebelling against all that stuff. Like, he picks it up here, but it's on the opposite end of the spectrum, where he can barely move. He's an old guy who's been like bedridden for a long time. So he really sells the idea that he's having a difficult time getting around, so that when he starts having to be physical, or more important, like more commonly getting hurt, like falling down a hill or whatever, you actually are like, oh my God, like this old guy's getting broken in half, you know?
Yeah, it has more consequence and weight to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we get a lot of like gross. We never see anything about this, and this is like an old story, you know, Hollywood story associated with this movie. And I think it actually might come from a Bruce Campbell interview. Was whenever he read the story and then ultimately the script and they offered it to him, his first question was, do I have to show my dick? Because there's a lot of discussion about Elvis's dick. And more specifically, he has some sort of, they never specifically say, but it's some sort of, because he has a growth on his pecker, but he apparently has some sort of like blister or cyst or something gross, some sort of pus-filled thing on his dick.
And it needs to be drained.
It needs to be drained. And it's a reoccurring thing between him and the nurse. You know, it's something that's really upsetting him. And there's a lot of talk about it. You never see anything, but it really lingers in your mind. A lot of imagined medical detail about this growth on his dick, which is the whole thing's pretty gross. But
that's a very telling like book thing. Like if you're ever looking for like, if you're ever watching something and just something seems so weirdly idiosyncratic and focused upon, you can almost guarantee that is something that's from the book, and that they just brought it in and they don't know how to represent it very well. Cause a lot of this is also told through like voiceover and narration by Elvis, because they're not going to show Elvis's bleedy, pussy dick. They're not going to show it. But it is just a thing that weighs on him. And they also kind of want you to get into his mind of, it's not just that he has a bleedy, pussy dick. It's that the way they treat him and treat his dick, because it's a thing that stands out and nobody is curing it. Nobody's helping it. And he's convinced that it's cancer, and nobody cares that it's cancer because he's just going to be dead anyway. So why bother with it? Just let it rot off. Who gives a shit?
Right. Yeah. It's very kind of defeatist type of thing. Ultimately, once the mummy starts coming on the scene and him and JFK start like scheming about how they're going to deal with whatever weirdness, or at least just learning about whatever weirdness is happening, it kind of gives him like a reason to live, and it's something to get excited about, something to get out of bed in the morning. And ultimately it allows him to get a boner for the first time in like 20 years too, of which he's very proud of. And there's a scene where he gets a boner when the nurse is trying to put like the cream on his growth. And it's cringy, but also very funny, because it's played for like, he's very proud of himself for getting a boner, because he's very upset that he's like impotent. So when he does get a boner and he gets a boner in front of the nurse almost treats it. She's like, "Oh, you rascal." Right. Like she kind of is impressed a little bit too. And then he starts being like creepy, you know, and I think in more recent years, or the last 20 years, I think collectively, obviously, like Me Too movement, all this stuff, like I think we all have kind of come to the realization that like it seems highly likely Elvis was not a good dude.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? like he was, you know. I don't want to speculate. I'm sure there's stories out there, but like, you know, Anthony Kiedis times 1,000 probably. Sure. Like, I just think like it's probably highly likely that Elvis was not a good dude. So like this scene takes on a little bit of like weird gravity as a result of that. But the nurse is like, "Oh, you rascal, blah, blah, blah." He's like, she's like, go get in the shower. He's like, you want to shower with me, baby?
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, oh, you. And then the best line by far is she's like, you should be ashamed of yourself. And she's kind of like weirdly flirting with him. And he goes, hey, baby, why don't you pull on a little? Why don't you pull on it a little? Is such a wild thing to say to the nurse.
Yeah. It's like, that's the moment where it crosses into just being fucking like, it's just gross Elvis. Because the scene starts and he's not even paying attention to that. Like he's thinking about everything that's happened in the past couple days with the mummy and everybody dying around him. He's thinking about all of that. And that's what, causes it, because he feels like he has purpose. But then it just, the rest of the scene just descends into Elvis being gross. And like, oh yeah, the king's back because the king is just a gross piece of shit is the way you can look at it now.
Yeah. And again, that's probably it probably hits a little too close to reality too. Anyway, so he's kind of, getting his mojo back, if that's what you want to call it, a step at a time. We see, I think at this point, is this when Kemosabe gets it or dies of a heart attack or some shit? Yeah. Which is just like a little bit of a sad scene. And he's out there with his Lone Ranger get up on, shooting his fake guns at the mummy, and obviously doesn't do anything. So he just ends up, I guess, keeling over from a heart attack. And then they're pretty bummed about their buddy. Elvis had explained previously that, he was friends with him and they used to play cards together, but now he has kind of went, suffering from, I don't know, dementia or Alzheimer's or something. And he just he's kind of lost track of reality. They hit this scene. The best part about this movie is the dialogue between Elvis and Jack.
Yeah.
And when they're in the bathroom and the mummy has carved hieroglyphics on the bathroom stall, which is such a funny, because we come to realize like this is the Don Coscarelli thing. They don't really explain. They try to explain, but they don't really do a very good job of explaining why he's an ancient Egyptian, pharaoh or something like that, right? Ancient Egyptian royalty. But he's now in Texas, East Texas, and he's a quote unquote Bubba, which is like kind of a slang term. They even define it at the beginning, a slang term for kind of like a, just like a redneck, right?
Right.
Good old boy kind of type. And we'll get to it, but they don't really explain how those two got mixed up. But it is funny for an ancient Egyptian mummy to do like a redneck thing, like carving something on a bathroom stall wall.
Yeah. I think
so. They go.
I think it's more along the lines of like, because they do have a line where they mention, Elvis is asking Jack, because Jack is doing all the research on this. Jack has like a bunch of books and he's reading up on it and he's going to the library. And so like Elvis asks him, he's like, so is this some sort of King Tut or something? And Jack's like, more like King Tut's brother. So you have to kind of imagine, they don't come out and say it directly, but you have to imagine like this is King Tut's fuck up brother who like he would have been a bumpkin back in 2000 BC or whatever. He was already a fuck up, and now that he's back to life, he's a fuck up again, and he's scrawling on the shithouse walls. And has written, Cleopatra does the nasty. So he's just a crass person to begin with.
Yeah. And I think at this point, I might have skipped it, but I think at this point, Jack had been like assaulted by the mummy at night. And he was talking about how he was trying to pull his pajama bottoms down and put his mouth over his asshole.
Right. Yeah.
And he's explaining to him that he tried it. And he was like, and Elvis goes, oh man, a shit eater. It's just, I don't know, that was funny. But he explains, that they ultimately, again, through Jack's research, determined that he needs to absorb souls to stay alive, and he can get at the souls through, any opening, any orifice, in the body. And that it just happened to be he was trying to suck his soul out of his asshole that particular night. Also, he's kind of set up shop out in the utility shed. Like we see that, but we don't really see much of it besides, a quick comment about, lights out there or whatever. They learn that he's a soul sucker. Finally, they get a good look at him, and he's a mummy. Like we said, like he looks like a ancient mummy kind of thing. Like desiccated body, skeleton-y features, that sort of thing. But also he has like the soul of like a robber or like a bank robber or something like that, because they go on to explain, but they do a really bad job of explaining, unless I miss something. Whenever the mummy was traveling around town, when it got into town, it got stolen by two like redneck robbers that were gonna hold it for ransom, but then their bus crashed and then he got trapped underwater.
Mm-hmm.
But how did that make him a redneck? Like, how did that make him a Bubba?
I don't think that made him that. I think he just like found the hat and boots when he was coming up. So like
he just fell in love with the culture. He moved there.
Yeah. He
settled there and fell in love with the culture as a mummy.
Or it's something that we're missing, and it's something that's in the book. Like the robbers put fucking cowboy boots on him because they thought it would be funny.
Yeah,
like that.
Something like that would have been funnier, or would have made more sense. But they really make no additional effort to explain that.
Yeah. I feel like maybe that's in the novella or whatever. That like they tried to dress him up, because like his hat isn't quite a cowboy hat either, because it has a fucking feather in it.
Yeah, it looks more like a almost, I was gonna say like, I don't know, a riverboat gambler type of hat or something like that. I don't know. Riverboat
gambler, a musketeer even.
Sure. Yeah, it's a weird look. And like I said, they don't really explain it too much, but
just the vibes. The vibes would be he would wear a musketeer hat and boots in Texas.
Right. Yep. Elvis and JFK eventually hash a plan to battle the mummy. They're just going to set his ass on fire because that cleanses evil or something. JFK read in a book, but they do get these sweet uniforms out, which is Elvis has his 70s style jumper that he would wear, and then you got JFK has like a his kind of presidential looking suit, and they set out to battle the mummy. Elvis with his walker, JFK is in like a motorized wheelchair, again all dressed up, ready to go. There's like a little montage of them kind of getting ready to battle. They have like a weed sprayer type of thing. It looks like a pressurized, maybe weed sprayer or maybe like a bug, something you would see an exterminator spraying around your house with, and they put some sort of, isn't it like it's rubbing alcohol or something? I think.
Yeah, they put rubbing alcohol, and then they also put just gasoline in it. Later they top it off with fucking gasoline.
Just some accelerants in this thing. They just basically hang around outside till the mummy walks out of the dark, which is kind of funny. But somehow he ends up flanking Elvis and like knocking him down. There's a little scuffle. He ultimately disappears. He pops out of nowhere, European uppercuts Jack in his chair, gets on top of him, of course, trying to suck his soul. The chair's still going around the yard. Elvis like gets in position, lines it up so he can jump in the chair as it goes past, and then charges him and does this whole like, come and get it, you undead sack of shit in the chair. They do this thing a couple times where whenever the mummy talks, he talks in this really deep, like demonic voice, and these superimposed, graphics come up screen. These floating hieroglyphics come up on screen, and then underneath you get a translation of what he said. And the first time he says something like, "May the eye of Ra,
he says
I don't know.
by Ra's unwinking red eye, which I think he's saying by Ra's asshole.
Unwinking red eye.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he meant. Eventually he does this little like, sorry man, and just sprays him, sets him on fire with a lighter. Jack has been, again, he got knocked off the thing. He was trying to suck a soul. We assume he dies of a heart attack or something like that, goes into cardiac arrest. And Elvis does this little like spell he reads that JFK gave him, but it's a super corny little rhyme or whatever. So it doesn't really work. Bubba pops back up, obviously burning. He didn't fully burn him. And he does another one of those quotes and he says, "Eat the dog dick of Anubis, asswipe." Which is like, it's getting really, obviously very cartoonish at this point. Elvis, charges him. They have this big fist fight. And then they're launched down a hill. They don't really show why. They're just like kind of scuffling and punching. All of a sudden, they just both are launched down a hill. And it's like, Chris Farley level of tumbling down this big giant hill. Elvis gets mortally wounded in doing so.
Yeah, which this is a callback to earlier in the film. This is a foreshadowed hill that we've already seen, because when Elvis goes out to investigate, he gets a clue and an idea that Kemosabe had been talking about a bridge, and Jack brought up that there was a bus crash off a nearby bridge, and he's like, okay, I know where that bridge is. I'm going to go investigate. And so he goes to look for clues about the mummy, and he comes upon this big fucking hill. And the first time we see it, Bruce Campbell we're like, oh, Bruce Campbell is going to go down this hill because he's that kind of tumble actor. But the first time he goes down it, he's super safe with his walker, and he's just sliding.
He's got his walker
sliding down it the whole time, and you're kind of like, oh, he didn't fall down it. Well, okay, I guess. But now he's back to it, and him and the mummy go over the edge in the wheelchair, and they both do full tumbles down the hill, and like you said, he gets mortally wounded, which makes more sense for a character, which at this point would be a 70 to 90-year-old Elvis, however you want to judge it.
Yeah. They get to the bottom, the mummy's on top of him, but he does manage to spray him again with the stuff, with the accelerant. He ends up kind of dousing the ground around him with it, and he gets the, TCB, baby. Slugs does a full-on power punch. And he says, "Your soul-sucking days are over, amigo." I mean, at this point, it's just every 2 minutes we're getting some sort of, catchy one-liner. And then he burns him real good at this point, fully burns his ass up. And then, the kind of closing scene, he dies happy, knowing that, you get this little dialogue from him explaining, he saved his soul, obviously, but also he saved the souls of his friends, everyone at the old people's home. And then, the stars arrange above him in hieroglyphics, and then the little translation pops up under and says, "All is well." And then thank you very much. So you get that's his dying word. So it is a surprise for such a silly movie. There's a surprising, little feel good, also touching ending. And the great thing about Bruce Campbell as a performer is, he can do all the slapstick stuff. He can do all this physical comedy. He can do all the crazy gore and all this wildness. But also he can absolutely turn on the dramatic stuff and deliver the tearjerkers when you need him to as well. He's just a fucking hell of a performer. And never feels like he's betraying the character at all. He is 100% on board.
Yeah. Yeah. He's always selling it as the character. And so, even though when it does get dramatic, you believe it. You believe it when he fights the scarab with a fucking meat fork. And you believe it when he's, dying on the hill. And he's just like, well, that's it for me, baby.
Yeah. He's just a fucking, that's why he's obviously the type of guy that anybody will watch. Any genre fan really will will watch just about anything he's in. Obviously, he's not, super active anymore. He'll show up in things now and again. Obviously, he's been in a couple like Hallmark Christmas movies and bullshit like that over the last 5 years. But, I'll pretty much watch anything he's in for that reason.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he had a small like off camera voice appearance on Evil Dead Rise, where like they were listening to the records of all the people who were like trying to decide whether or not they read from the book, and he's one of the ones who was like, don't read from the book is bad. So
right. Yeah, he seems to be the kind of guy who's just like, hey, I've made enough money and I'm gonna go fuck off and live my life kind of
thing. Because he has
which,
like a huge property somewhere in Oregon, I think. Like yeah, it feels like he's pretty set. But that's Bubba Ho-Tep. It's a lot of fun. It is weirdly a movie people don't talk about a ton for having a big name person in it who is and it's just being an absolute bonkers movie. I will say there are big stretches of it where doesn't feel like a lot happens at certain times, but it's a tight movie. Yeah. It never feels boring or anything like that. It's just, it's about old people in an old people's home. So it's not going to be nonstop action, obviously. But the like I said, the two, there are some great action scenes. And then, I think that the makeup and practical effects, although they're not, it's not super, super heavy on that, are solid. And the best part is the dialogue between, obviously the voiceover of Bruce Campbell, but also Bruce Campbell and Ozzy. Oh my gosh, Davis. I forgot his name. Ozzy Davis. They're kind of back and forth is great. Yeah. There's a lot of great repartee between the two of them, and just a lot of great one-liners from Bruce Campbell. And again, that's the other thing that makes this more obvious as a book, because, like you said, it feels like nothing's happening a lot of the time, but that's also because the film is literally just from Elvis's perspective in the bed, and it's his narration. So like that doesn't always make the best movie, but that makes a great book because you're more about imagining what he's thinking about. You get a number of flashbacks to like when he's performing as himself as an impersonator, or just like out on the road and things like that. You get flashbacks to that, and that it kind of helps the action along. Like we mentioned, when he's talking about blowing up his contract, they flash back to that and just like put in a huge fucking explosion, which is great, because otherwise, again, he's still just in his bed remembering that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of good things. This movie, like you said, I don't think a lot of people talk about it now as much, but there was like a lot of buzz for a long time because the very last thing after the credits was, Bruce Campbell will return as Elvis in Bubba Nosferatu. And like for a long time, there was going to be a sequel to this film. It was Bubba Nosferatu. It was going to be a pseudo sequel, and that also starred Paul Giamatti as Colonel Tom Parker. So,
sure.
So it was going to be great, and there was even talks of a third film, Bubba Sasquatch.
Yeah, I that I definitely heard of the Bubba Nosferatu. I didn't hear Bubba Sasquatch, but I also didn't hear the Paul Giamatti being connected to it as well. But I didn't realize until before I watched this and I was reading up on it a little bit. I didn't realize that this was actually something that was like somewhat a reality. I thought it was almost like at the end of Beer Fest where they're like, coming back soon, Weed Fest or whatever, and everybody would be like, "Oh, did you hear they're actually making Weed Fest?" Or like, "No, they're not, dude. That was a joke. They're not making Weed Fest."
But they might. They still might.
But they might. They could. They could just say change their mind.
I mean, nobody expected to make Super Troopers 2, so who knows what they'll ever do. They might.
That's true. And Super Troopers 2 is actually really funny, by the way. I forgot I had it. I just built a big new, like the whole one wall in my office, a big set of shelves. So I have like a ton of my VHS and DVDs and books and all this stuff on it. And I was going through and just like taking inventory of my fucking so many goddamn movies that I have that I didn't even know I had. And I had a brand new copy of Super Troopers 2 still in the plastic. And I was like, when did I buy that? Because I don't think I watched it since it came out, but I remember laughing my dick off at it. I was probably very, very baked when I watched it.
That makes sense. So Bubba Nosferatu never came to pass, but Joe Lansdale did wind up writing a new novel in 2017 called Bubba Bubba and the Cosmic Bloodsuckers. It's, I mean, it basically follows what Don Coscarelli's idea was, in that Colonel Tom Parker was going to help Elvis, in the 70s fight vampires in New Orleans. And like Tom Parker is like contracted by Nixon and puts together like a superhero team almost of like a witch and the descendant of John Henry who has a sledgehammer. So like, of course, like there's a lot of goofy stuff in it. So that was made into a novel. It's also in comic book form now. And if you don't have enough Bubba stuff from that, there also is another comic book of Army of Darkness versus Bubba Ho-Tep. And it's Elvis and Ash teaming up to fight the Deadites. So you can check that out there as well.
You know what? I would be eager to learn if that was worth reading or checking out, because Ash, I feel like Ash is a pretty singular character.
Right.
And to have two, not that Elvis is Ash, it's two different characters, but I feel like they don't need to team up.
Yeah.
Just my first inclination is you probably don't need them to team up.
You don't need them to.
They're maybe a little too similar. Yeah, maybe it's Ash and if you put a more scientific type or something like that alongside Ash, who's all about machismo and blowing shit up and chasing tail and all that stuff. Maybe you put an Ash and a Van Helsing type together. That might make sense.
Sure, and that could be out there. There is so many. This is the world of comic books anymore. Is just so many team ups and one shots.
Yeah,
especially because there aren't that many Evil Dead movies. Like, this is what people subsisted on. They subsisted on like these made up, goof 'em up Army of Darkness things. We talked about it a couple episodes ago, but it started with Army of Darkness versus Freddy versus Jason. So they could, because that movie was never going to happen. So they put that out there.
I remember when Freddy vs. Jason came out, everybody shit their pants, right? Everybody was like, I can't believe they're actually doing this. They did it. They gave it to us. It was fun. I like that movie. I don't think I've ever seen another blank versus blank that I have given two shits about. Like I really can't even think of one that I would want.
Well, they so
it's like Swamp Thing versus the Kool-Aid Man, like just the dumbest combinations. I see, like, I'm at New Dimension Comics in Elwood, and like I mostly go and get like old horror comics and stuff. Like, that's what I'm into, right?
Yeah.
Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shit or whatever.
Sure.
And I'm looking through that, and I see just these mashups of stuff. I'm like, who the Vampira versus, the fucking Jolly Green Giant? Nobody cares about these.
Yeah. But I mean,
Vampira's okay.
That's what started happening. They just started doing all this mashups because it's a safe medium to fuck around in, is comic books.
Sure.
So occasionally some of that stuff comes out. They made a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meets Batman cartoon movie. It's actually kind of sick. It's actually kind of good.
Is
I like
it?
Yeah.
I'm aware of it.
It has a great Batman versus Shredder fight scene that kind of rules.
See, that's exactly what I don't want to see. Okay, I'm a huge TMNT fan. I am a longtime Batman fan, although in recent years, with maybe the exception of like Gotham by Gaslight, like that was it Gaslamp? What is it called? Gotham by Gaslamp?
Yeah, it was Gotham by Gaslight
by Gaslight. Yeah,
yeah.
One or the other. I really like that. With the exception of that, there hasn't been a lot of stuff in the Batman universe for me to get excited about recently.
Did you
like the big giant jacked Batmans? The new guy, Batman, who looks like the fucking Hulk. Like I don't fucking give a shit about any of that stuff. But I will tell you one thing. I do not want to watch Batman fight the Shredder. I do not want to see it. I'm not interested. I'm out. I don't need those two things matched up. It is such a totally different. I mean, there's so many different incarnations of both, but like, I just can't imagine a scenario where, because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live in New York City.
Yeah.
And Gotham is like a weird Art Deco 50s version of New York City. And the Ninja Turtles live in modern day New York City. I'm like, it's not the same.
I know. I can't remember the full setup, but I'm pretty sure it is that like they all go through a portal on the Technodrome and wind up in Gotham or some shit like that.
That's the laziest, dumbest thing in the world. Yes, there is probably a portal on the Technodrome. I'm not going to argue that point.
There definitely is. It goes to Dimension X usually, but this time it went to Gotham.
It could go to a different place. Fine. I just don't. I'm not fucking interested. It is making my gears turn now. I'm trying to figure out what a mashup that I would be interested in is.
Okay. Well, how about while you think about that, I do have another Batman thing that came out recently that came out last year. It's called Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham, and it's kind of like Gotham by Gaslight, but it is like a Lovecraftian 1920s Batman.
Ooh, I like historical Batman. The Doom That Came to Gotham. I'll check it out.
And it is like is
this a series or a book?
No, it's like a movie. I mean, it might be a book as well, but it's I saw the movie. Yeah,
I'm trying to think, man. I mean, the only thing I can imagine that I might like is if we pop Garfield into something. If we go like Garfield in, I mean, obviously we've already got Garfield in the Thing. That pretty much exists already. Weird Lovecraftian old god Garfield already exists essentially. Mm-hmm. But Garfield and the Power Rangers, that might be sick.
Mm-mm. Oh, that's another comic book that exists. Power Rangers versus Godzilla.
That makes total sense, actually.
It does.
Because they literally it was just a kaiju show. Like, they just fought fucking kaijus. But here's the thing, is if Rita Repulsa throws down her staff and makes Godzilla grow even bigger.
Oh, see, I didn't read it, so I don't know. She might have.
You're fucked now. Yeah. You're fucked now. Because he's already big as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's quite a turn there. All right, guys, tell us. Go over in the social medias. Tell us what property you want Garfield to show up in. We'll make it happen. We can put.
I figured it out.
What?
Garfield v. Chef Boyardee.
We know who's going to win that one. I was going to say, just as you said Garfield v. I immediately thought Garfield versus Battletoads. No, you're not into that? Because Battletoads were just like the poor man's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like Garfield could just fucking tear him a new one, just rip on, make fun of them. You know what I mean?
I would like Garfield versus Sonic, because like they're two opposing things. Sonic is like, it's time to go fast and eat chili dogs. And Garfield's like, nah, man, it's time to sleep and eat lasagna. And those are like two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, they both do like to eat, but yeah, Garfield likes to eat everything. Sonic really just exclusively loves chili dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I could see like a weird adult version of that would be really fun. Kind of like that comic book where they had like Danzig and Henry Rollins being like roommates. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, there was like kind of a joke thing of when Glenn Danzig and Henry Rollins were roommates, but they do that. and it's like a gritty kind of, adult themed thing where it's like Sonic and Garfield are roommates, but then like Sonic ends up like hooking up with Tails, and so there's a lot of tension in the house.
See, like Sonic mistakes Garfield as a bad guy because Garfield employs Dr. Robotnik to ship Nermal to Abu Dhabi in the most effective way.
Dr. Eggman, please don't anglicize it. It's fucking it's offensive. All right. Anyway, guys, that was Bubba Ho-Tep. If you apparently that was Bubba Ho-Tep we were just talking about. But go ahead and if you got any suggestions for minisodes, or if you're like, hey, here's a topic I would like to hear you guys talk about for spooky season. If you're tuning in and it's spooky season and you're looking for Halloween shit, go back and listen to some of our old episodes too, from last Halloween season and the Halloween seasons prior to that, because we always do some specifically Halloween things. We talk about our favorite trick or treat scenes in movies, or maybe our favorite costumes we ever dressed up in, that sort of stuff. I always love those. We'll absolutely do some more of those as we press closer to the heart of this spooky season. So if you got any suggestions for us, throw them our way on the social media, sliding on DM, send one of them motherfucking emails if you feel so inclined. We always appreciate that. Steve, anything else we should mention? And reminder, next week, tune in. Good God, you better, because we're going to pick what our Halloween Showdown movies are going to be off the spinning asshole, giant ass wheel. So if you got any suggestions for movies that need to go on the wheel, throw them our way. We already have about 80 damn movies on there, so yours might already be on there. But if it ain't, we'll add it, and we might land on it.
Yeah. Now, I don't got nothing to add. I realized that for my September recos on the Patreon, I'm doing a lot of write-ups of action films and comedies because I am hoarding all my horror stuff for the 31 days of October. So,
oh yeah, I think I might do the 31 days of October this year. I certainly watch damn near close to that many movies, but I would love to do it as well too, and actually lay it out and go like, I want to make a plan where I used to do like, okay, here's my 31 days, and I'll actually lay out what movies I'm going to watch which days. I used to do that, and I haven't done that in recent years. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it again this year. All right, boys and ghouls, for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Elvis. Maybe
You're not. No, you're not.
I'm JFK.
Okay, fine. You're JFK,
oh yeah, fine. JFK and ass.
Yins are JFK.
Yeah, Yins are JFK. Gonna go downtown. Got a Dunkin'.
I'm gonna kill myself.
Hooray!
Hooray!